Alright, we are back, and in this video, I'm going to take you right back to where we are. This is the spot where Michael Steinbacher was at. We talked about this in the Pillar of Fire, Pillar of Smoke video. This is what we have here on Google Maps as well. We're going to zoom out. This is the scale. And right here you can see this was one Z pinch. I talked about this. Here's the plume up. I'm going to zoom back in for a minute. And zoom out one. This appears to be like a second pinch between the currents. And here, this is pretty much like right around, oh wait, here it is. Yep. This current comes in here while this wraps in down and around up in here. So this is pretty much directly above this. You have the plume to the top. Then you come back over to this pinch. And it's kind of like directly above this down here. And in this video, I'm just going to talk about some of these larger patterns that jump out at you. Because you can take this up and it go right up in here and it's up into the plume. Upwards. This jet up from this pinch here, where this braided filament comes in and appears to meet with a current that's coming in, wrapping, affecting the land and sea, sort of like this in a fashion, but in and out of the actual Earth. And you can see these patterns in the mountain range and various geologic features. I talked about this. It looks as though there's like a polarity in a lot of things, and that was what Michael Steinbacher was talking about. In here, there's like a yin and a yang. And I talked about that, how it looks kind of the same on Antarctica, how this is one way and this is the other. There's like this pair. And you can see it on the Earth. And again, I mean, this is a Pangea Earth. It's like you would have a land side and then you would have a vast ocean on the other. So there's all these things that indicate polarity. But what we have on the Earth is a redistribution of charge. So if there's one spot here where the intense fluctuations happen, all these positive charges around here need to come back and account for what's going on here. Same thing with this. All these would have to come back around. And there is physics behind this, in which direction they want to go, what direction the magnetic field will affect the flow of the electrical current, and the relationship here also has a 90-degree perpendicular relationship in the force of motion. I talked about how that might have torqued our actual planet to cause certain features, whereas, let me zoom out, even more, even more, even more. Okay, I was saying the Pacific would have went this way and this would have went this way if there was that additional torque applied to the planet, while we were having the moon smashed into one side of Pangea Earth. So while that was happening, I was coming over here to the orbit, explaining the differences in here. But I'm just going to take you throughout the Earth in this video and just show you some of these larger features, starting with this, because this appears to be a reoccurring pattern, this larger sphere in opposition to the smaller sphere. And then you can see it in this. There's a larger sphere in opposition to the smaller sphere. This is almost identical to this, with the exception of this pinch right down here, which carries right through here, up in here. This is a focal point region, and it's pulling in from all the way down here, pluming out and around. But this is the sphere of resistance. And then you can see this in the waters. It's not just in the land. You come over here, and this is like a larger sphere with the smaller sphere popping out. Up in here, this is a resonant pattern that travels throughout the Earth right here, because it kind of shows up in Hudson's Bay over here. But over here you get the larger sphere and the smaller sphere, the larger and the smaller. And there's just various patterns like that that you see, to where it makes you wonder what's affecting what. But when you hear tales that talk about, like, I'm going to get into the mythology that he talks about in this, because I didn't even know much about that. But then there's other tales. That's why I had to bring up Immanuel Velikovsky. But so looking at these larger scale features, like coming over here, here's the rift. And you can see the charge has to come down and around here and back up in here. I talked about this. But this frequency down in here, this is just a squiggle pattern. And it comes in and it traces in to this right here. And this is where you see a very distinct braiding carried on throughout this. Like you can see it wraps up and around. I'm going to zoom in, I can. And it's in a lot of these features right here. It's a braiding. This is the primary band right here. And you can see there's these flowing throughout it. And then it opens up here. Here. This is where it carries back over to the 1Z pinch and carries down and around through, while the other comes up here, comes back down and around, and another one from down here goes through and up and around here. And it carries through here. You see these braids? It's a braiding pattern. It's a braiding pattern. Kind of see it a little bit in this. And there's frequencies running throughout this. But you see it more so along here. This is where it gets really intense, this rope. Let me zoom in. It's a rope wrapping throughout, but these are like, this is coming up and out of the earth. See if we can get any pictures. Maybe. Like this is pulling it right out of the earth. And then it splits off, it wraps around here. Traces around here. But see, I find this fascinating. These are kind of wrapping around, sort of like what it does. Oh yeah, that's a, it's hard to tell if this is from the sand or not, but this opens up kind of like it did over by the Z-pinch, but in this area right here, you come back over and there's your Eye of the Sahara. So it almost looks like by the time the moon made it this far, it was trying to get back down to its original potential, which may have been at the south. But if the Earth was torqued in a certain fashion, like we can see here, if the original potential was the water was always facing into that side, you start over here and this gets shifted this way while this side gets shifted down to the south around the back end. That would be the opposite end of what we see here, but you can imagine that the 90-degree torque coming in this direction, wrapping itself around the world while this is happening with the moon. And then there's the need to balance the two larger potentials, but you go to this and all this starts pulling down. This is where everything draws its attention down here to here, but then this current doesn't just come down here and up and over. This one wraps around, and as this is wrapping around, you can see it's changing polarities in and out. Like this side is the tan, this side is tan on the Pacific coast here. It switches polarities up in here, and then it switches back over in here, and then it switches back over in here, and then it switches back over in here, and then I don't know if it entirely switches back before it might, but you see what's going on. You can come in and you can see it very distinctly where it switches polarities as it's wrapping in and out. And what happens over here starts happening over here. This is very secure on this end. Flips over, but if you come up here, look, you got one potential linking up to this side and one potential linking down to this side. And zoom out, and this is in line with, you see what I'm saying? This goes right back in line with your Eye of the Sahara, right over here. This comes back in line over here. So the polarity is very important here while it's doing this. And while we're over right here, this is the area where Michael Steinbacher talked about Zion Canyon. And I'm going to talk more about this because he said this is the only area he sees that was caused by electricity. But when you look at where this is in relationship to everything else, zoom back out, this is drawing energy in from here. There's this vortex coming in down here, which is, and it just so happens to be at this exact spot where you get, I don't even think, it's just a very intense frequency right over here in Zion Canyon. Zoom back out again, where it's coming in right at the edge of the band of the Sprite, right before it meets all the resistance, and it's coming in from a low pressure. This is really a larger amplitude, I think, more than anything. It's coming in at a really intense frequency is why it's doing that, because I was trying to find, and you can see it's kind of fizzling out down here, but it's still carrying out throughout, where you get a far this side, then this side, a little bit that side, then it jumps over here very far down there, then a little blip blip, zip 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 zip, zip, and then it's gone. But you can see it traveling this way, but it all comes back to where this is specifically at in the map, because these are flowing in different directions, but when you zoom out, it kind of makes sense what's going on with the current right in this area. It's pulling right in, but it's pulling in from this band, and this is a separate band where it starts wrapping on both sides. You zoom out, it wraps around and in here and runs back around here. This band comes back over here and over here, up in here. Very interesting stuff. So we're going to talk more about it and get into other stuff as well while we try and process all of this in one large event. Alright, thank you everyone, and I will talk to you later. Take care. Bye-bye.